Hello, my name is Tori, and I like this chalice for the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
Let me help you with this.
That was hilarious.
There you go. Try it again. That's a girl. Thank you, Tori. Now I invite you to rise as you are willing and able as we speak once again the words of our community's covenant. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Would you remain standing for our opening hymn?
Sets our mind and souls ablaze. In our hunger and our passion, need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, in our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment as our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our bridges choice. With a fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze. In our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Would our coming-of-age youth join me on the platform now? In the Coming of Age program this year, you've been learning about your Unitarian Universalist faith. You're developing your own religious beliefs by writing your credos. And you'll be learning more about our Unitarian Universalist heritage and faith when you visit our national headquarters in Boston in July. Today, I want you to invite you to move up to our high school teen class this fall. And we have a tradition in our teen class of going to Winstead's for a social time at the beginning of the new school year. So, to welcome you into our teen class, we have gift certificates to Winsteads for you. If you bring up the gift certificates, please save them for your time with the teens in your new class this fall. And we hope you have a wonderful time in Boston, and we look forward to welcoming you into the high school teen class in September. And you may be seated. Thank you. Aren't they a wonderful group? I can tell you that this coming of age group is just a wonderful group of young people. We can be so proud of who they are.
And we'll now send the rest of the children to their Sunday school classes with song.
Good morning. For those who don't know me, I'm John Fish Carmen, and I'm up here this morning to give you an update on the new Poor People's Campaign. Hopefully you've already heard of it. Of course, it's a revival of the original Poor People's Campaign from 1968, which I was too young to participate in, just shy of 3 years old. But frankly, 50 years later, I'm appalled that there's any need for a new Poor People's Campaign. Clearly that means we have not done enough, and it means I have not done enough, which is why tomorrow I will be going to Jefferson City for week 5, a protest at the Capitol building. It's a real indictment of us as a society that there is still a need for this. The theme of week 5 is everybody's got a right to live. Education, living wages, jobs, income, housing. That covers a lot of ground. I have 3 to 4 minutes, so I can't talk about it all. So I'm going to focus on living wages, since that in a money economy is sort of central to all of those other things. The U.S. federal minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. That is not a living wage by any stretch of the imagination. Now, 29 states in the District of Columbia do set a higher minimum wage. Sadly, Kansas is not one of those. Missouri is, and in Missouri, the minimum wage is the exorbitant amount of $7.85 an hour. So, hey, no problem, right? Well, no. In March of last year, the KCMO City Council passed a higher minimum wage. They were going to raise the minimum wage to $8.50 an hour. St. Louis also passed a higher minimum wage. They were going to raise it to $10 an hour. But in its great wisdom, our Republican-led General Assembly passed legislation in May of last year overturning the ability of any local municipality to raise the minimum wage. Apparently, Republicans believe in local, small, decentralized government until they don't like the outcome. Then in August, the voters of Kansas City, Missouri, in response to an initiative petition where signatures were gathered to put it on the ballot, passed a higher minimum wage, which would raise the minimum wage in Kansas City, Missouri to $15 an hour in steps, up to reaching $15 an hour in 2022. That, of course, was largely a symbolic action because, barring a legal challenge, the Missouri General Assembly's vote means that cannot go into effect. There will, however, likely be on the ballot in November, again in response to an initiative petition at the statewide level, the Missouri $12 minimum wage initiative. So you may have a chance to cast your vote for a higher wage. One can argue it's not yet a livable wage. Of course, the ability to organize with your fellow workers and to bargain for higher wages, better benefits, and better working conditions is also central to the worker's life. Unfortunately, our General Assembly is also determined to put as many obstacles in the way of that as possible by putting on the ballot in August, and they deliberately put it in August when voter turnout is lower, Proposition A, the so-called right to work referendum. It's actually the right to work in a workplace where there's a union and get all the benefits of working in a place where there's a union without having to pay anything to support the union. It is not right to work. There is much to do. There is much to get involved. To go back to Martin Luther King Jr., who of course was central in the beginning of the original Poor People's Campaign, there's a quote that's often attributed to him, and it is a quote that he said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Now, taken out of context, that makes it sound as if it's a principle of the universe, as if it's a sort of natural law. The arc of the moral universe automatically bends toward justice. Now, that isn't what Martin Luther King Jr. thought, of course, and you can tell that by the way he lived his life. The truth of the matter is when the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice, it's only because enough of us take it firmly in our hands and bend with all our strength. This is week 5. There is a week 6, and of course the struggle will not end with the end of the 40 days of the Poor People's Campaign. There's still time to get involved. Please consider doing so.
All right. Keep up the good work, Poor People's Campaign, man. Like, General Assemblies seem difficult to get around. Anyway, good morning. I am Savino Go, and I am part of the Coming of Age class this year, and I've been attending All Souls since I was 3 years old, and I have learned a lot in the 11-year journey leading up to today, all the way from various different little bits of information about the great many religions available in the world to how to define my personal religious and philosophical viewpoints in life. So essentially how to have a proper existential crisis, which is something I've got a lot of time to do now. But anyway, I would love to learn more, and I would love to do that on our biannual coming of age trip to the UU headquarters in Boston. There we will visit, like I said, the UU headquarters. As Judith mentioned earlier, we'll learn more about the beginnings of UU in our country, kind of where they're installed, how they're helping social justice in the country and in the world as well. And basically, we'll just kind of enrich our lives. And as you'll find out more as the service goes on, like how important this is to different people and whatnot. And so anyway, that is what the offering today will be taken for. It'll be for the coming of age trip to Boston. So please make your checks out to All Souls and put coming of age on the memo line. Thank you so much for your wonderful generosity to the coming of age program. The offering will now be received.
We've cleared off the table, leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I've told you a story, tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know that I'll love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you are done. There are girls who grow up strong and bold. There are boys quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind. Sorry, I got off on my cards. Excuse me. Sometimes the guitar gets away from me. Oh, let me begin. Oh, you can be... Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This is very embarrassing. Oh, body you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart bleeds, and know that I love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the sorry. You want to be one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you when you're done. There are girls who grow up strong and bold. There are boys quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind. Some go in their way in time. Some women love women, some men love men. Some raise children, some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they'll give the same back to you. Or you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and you'll know that I love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. When you're done. I'm so sorry.
We love you, Shauna. Let's join together in the words of dedication for our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate community. Let me give you fair warning. This lies in store for all of us, whatever your current age may be. If you live long enough, and it doesn't have to be all that long, probably well before you are ready for it, children take over the world. There is no alternative. The whole cycle of nature is designed that way. What's more, it's a good thing. The succession of the generations is inevitable. Stopping it isn't an option. So why bother preaching about it? The thing is, as with so much else in life, that attitude makes a huge difference in how we experience the inevitable. And attitude is something we do have choices about. Whether we are elders looking at the upcoming generation, or young people on the threshold considering our parents and teachers, the perspective we bring and the judgments that we make or forbear to make will determine the kinds of connections that we foster in families, in religious communities like this one, and in society as a whole. Begin with the recognition that apparently no age has ever felt adequately honored or held in respect by its successors. From Socrates to Broadway, someone is always complaining about the unsatisfactory behavior and attitudes of the youth, or demanding, "What's the matter with kids today?" The hard-won truths of one generation are the exasperating platitudes of the next. Please be assured that you are not a special case on either side of this equation. Boomers, remember how uncool our parents were? How they stressed about boys' long hair and girls' short skirts, when there were so many more important issues like war and famine and civil rights. It's tempting to think, well, but with us it's different. I mean, we didn't have iPhones and Snapchat, and we weren't dyeing our hair blue, for heaven's sake. Teens, I promise you, your parents were just as impatient once upon a time with the adults in their lives as you are today, for equally good and equally bad reasons. Some of us felt forced into a mold that didn't fit us. Others felt bewildered in a world without guidance. The poet Robert Frost describes his experience this way. When I was young, my teachers were the old. I gave up fire for form till I was cold. I suffered like a metal being cast. I went to school to age, to learn the past. Now when I am old, my teachers are the young. What can't be molded must be cracked and sprung. I strain at lessons fit to start a suture. I go to school to youth to learn the future. The dilemma is that we need each other, the past and the future, the young and the old. We need the wisdom and resources of elders, patiently holding things together while new ideas unfold and experiments succeed or fail, or a little of both. And we need the energy and vision of young people who make things happen because they aren't willing to settle for being told they can't. We need the skepticism of age saying, "I've never seen anything like that work before." And the skepticism of youth saying, "Why keep doing it that way when the result is not so good?" The key, it seems to me, on both sides is an old-fashioned word, and that is honor. We need our seniors to honor the idealism and passion of those who don't want to settle for their lives, but want to make a difference. That is a holy aspiration. And without it, the inertia of corruption will consume us all. At the same time, we need our young people to honor the long and faithful journeys by which their elders have tried to serve the good and the truth as we understood it. We need to bless both the labor that has been given and the hopes that are just now finding voice. These are not mutually exclusive. At our best, they are the legacy and the promise that make our communities enduring over time. We need to honor the experiences that shape us, both young and old, as together we try to make a world that has never been, but that might yet be. Last Sunday, senior students at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, were awarded their diplomas at the 2018 graduation ceremony, 4 of them posthumously, 4 months after a shooter with a legally obtained AR-15 semi-automatic rifle gunned down 17 people, including seniors Meadow Polak, Carmen Shentrup, Nicholas Dworet, and Joaquin Oliver. Their fellow student, Delaney Tarr, also a member of the graduating class, wrote this in an essay in Teen Vogue the month after the murders. She said, "We have been forced to grow up in the span of days. We have been forced to live what feels like an entire lifetime before the week even ended. We are high schoolers, though high school now feels like a distant memory. But I refuse to feel hopeless. Our childhoods may have been stolen from us, but there are so many lives that can still be protected and saved. Just because this has happened to many before us does not mean it must continue to happen to those after. The innocent young people that deserve their youth, my 12-year-old sister or the 4-year-old I babysit, shouldn't have to live in a world of code reds and shooter protocol and closet hideouts. That is why we are marching and making ourselves heard, knowing that we can keep this from happening to even one more person is the only thing that makes me feel even a little bit better about living through this senseless tragedy. We are in a place where we have the ability to speak out. We have social media, and we have the news, and we have the benefit of coming from a school that has given us so many opportunities to learn about our country. We know the damage that organizations like the NRA do. We know the money that is flowing directly into politicians' hands in exchange for more semi-automatic rifles in circulation. With all the power and platform being given to us, my peers and I will never be quiet. We will not be silenced by an oppressive government. We will not be silenced by corrupt individuals. We will be heard. We are no longer just high school students. That much is true. We are now the future. We are a movement. We are the change. Is Delaney Tarr an exceptional young person? Yes and no. As she herself points out, she and her classmates have had an exceptional education in their rights and opportunities and obligations as citizens to speak out. Their organized and articulate protest is evidence of that preparation bequeathed to them by a generation of teachers, parents, and elders. Yet their vision of schools without guns and preparations for guns is not unique. It is shared by many students and young people across the nation who know that in this regard, their older generations have not served them well. Delaney Tarr is admirable, but she is not alone. Like many of her cohort, she seeks to call us all back to our better selves, to imagine a better world and ask, why not? In a moment, we will honor the graduation of an admirable young woman raised in this community who has overcome adversity and personal tragedy to achieve remarkable things. We will celebrate her and send her forth to the next chapter in her life with our love and blessings. Let us commit ourselves here in this covenant community of memory and promise to honor both the wisdom of the past and the vision of the future. Let us lift up the best examples of lives long devoted to service and to sacrifice for the common good, as well as the new willingness both to demand and to be the change that may help to heal our culture and our planet. May we learn from the past that we may guard its treasures and repeat its mistakes as little as possible. May we learn from the future so that its best hopes may kindle the fire of our shared commitment and make us whole together.
Today we're celebrating the double graduation of Carissa Stevens with a bridging ceremony. I've known Carissa for many years, and I can tell you she's a wonderful young woman. We can be very proud of who she is and what she's accomplished so far in her life. And her mother, Susan, is going to tell us about those accomplishments and share a little bit about Carissa. And then Carissa will share a few words with us.
Hello. Well, from the moment of birth, Carissa has been awake and alert. After the thank you. After the doctor performed the APGAR test and the nurse brought Carissa over to me and snuggled her into the crook of my arm and helped her nurse for the first time, Carissa her blue eyes just stared intently into mine. And she just held my gaze it just seemed like forever until she dropped off to sleep. And all throughout the months that she was a baby in arms, she kept that almost rigid alertness. I mean, just wide awake. And she'd snuggle against us if she was sleepy, but the rest of the time, it's like we'd be carrying her around and she'd just have this little straight back. And she was just like looking all around, taking everything in, not wanting to miss out on a thing. As she became a toddler, one of her favorite things was looking around out in the yard for like little bugs and worms. We had this board that we had laid down in our backyard so we could turn it over and see all the bugs up underneath, and she was just fascinated. And one day I just casually made up a story. I said one day wormy and just told a story about a little worm. And after that, it was like anytime there was a moment of silence, she'd be, coming up and saying, one day wormy, or tell me a story. And it was like she expected me to constantly be churning out stories. And then it was years later when she started writing her own stories. It was like, she would just sit down and she would just write out a story. It was like it was just pouring out of her. It was like she had all these stories stored up inside her and was ready to share them. And when I would read them, I'd get really interested to know what happened next. So it wasn't just like I enjoyed reading her writing because she was my child, but she wrote really interesting stuff, and I really wanted in an engaging way, and I really wanted to keep reading and see what would happen next. So I'm very excited to see what she'll write in the future, and also the story of her life as it plays out. We had been out of church for a few years, and Carissa was 10 going on 11, and she was missing going to Sunday school. So I started looking on the internet to find out about churches where we could be welcome even with our beliefs changing and things. And I came across All Souls, and Carissa and I came, just the two of us, and visited the first time. And she just immediately, it just clicked with her. She just loved it. And after that, we just couldn't miss a Sunday. It was like, I may be thinking, we could sleep in today, but she'd be bounding in out of bed. No, we have to go to church. And she just was really plugged in to the Sunday school and later the youth group, always wanted to participate in every chance to serve, helping with fundraisers for coming of age, Sunday plus lunches, you name it. When we have the used book sale, she always loved volunteering with that and shopping in that. It was just a really great thing for her. And for the past 4 years, she's been very actively involved in Project Pride. This is a coterie theater troupe where the LGBTQ and straight kids come together. They share about their life experiences, and then they put on a production to share with the public too, and interact with the public about what's happening in their lives and LGBT and Q issues and things like that. And when Bud and I had always homeschooled because we'd had really bad experiences ourselves, and we had planned to just homeschool all the way through. And as Carissa approached adolescence, she started really letting us know that school was part of what she needed in order to be who she wanted to be, to develop how she wanted to develop and accomplish what she wanted in life. And so with much trepidation, when she was 13, she went to her first day of school, her first day of 8th grade, at Paseo Academy of Fine and Performing Arts. And it was a bit of an adjustment, but she really adjusted very quickly academically. And at first she was telling me, well, I have a group of kids that I eat lunch with, but it's really too soon for me to say whether I have any friends or not. But then as we approached Christmas vacation, I noticed her knitting or crocheting, and I asked her what she was making, and she said presents for my friends. So she had her little group of friends, and she was very active in the theater. All the years that she was at Paseo, she tried out for and participated in every production. The last play that she was in was Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. She got the role of Vera, and she got really sick shortly before time to perform. Just major issues as well as influenza B, and she was just wiped out. But she said, I can't lose this role. It's the best part I've ever had. And so she pushed herself. She got to all the rehearsals right before, and you wouldn't have known she was sick to watch her. It was like she was online. She was energetic. She was fully threw herself into the part. And that was the last play that her dad got to see her in. And that is shortly after the funeral of Chris's dad, my husband. We did get the notice that she got accepted into Penn Valley's, in Kansas City Public Schools Early College Academy. She'd been working towards that. She's been knowing for a long time that she wanted to go to college, that it was very expensive, and that she needed to keep up her grades to get scholarships if she was going to be able to do what she wanted to do in life. And so for the junior and senior year, she went to Penn Valley. So she's just graduated with an Associate of Arts from Penn Valley, as well as her from Paseo. She's was the class valedictorian, so she had 2 graduations in 1 week, and she's taken full. And I wanted to mention when we were talking about the friends, as a mentor to her younger sister Arabella, she's always just really encouraged Arabella to take risks, to go out and try new things, and just to really take on life and not be afraid. Anyhow, but back to with the college, Carissa's taken full initiative in doing the college applications. She's always been a self-starter. So even when she started school, she said, she didn't want me reminding her about homework. She didn't want me checking her work unless there was something she wanted help with. She was handling it all on her own. She knew what she needed to do when she needed to do it, and she's managed herself academically all this time. She took all the initiative to apply for colleges, to apply for scholarships. She applied for every single one that she could, and got a really good offer, which she'll tell you more about those plans in just a bit. And I just wanted to add, so Carissa started life with her eyes wide open, not wanting to miss a thing. And she's continued to be a woman who looks intently at the world, honestly expresses what she sees, opens herself up to new experiences, and is a loyal friend and faithfully stands by her friends and family and loves and supports them, and actively pursues her goals. And I'm immeasurably blessed to be her mother.
Good morning. Good morning. There we go. Acceptance at All Souls I took it for granted. At All Souls, I wasn't shunned or judged for bringing a girlfriend to church, or what religion I followed or didn't follow, or if I dressed unconventionally or got a piercing or dyed my hair, or talking about my viewpoints, political or otherwise. So ever since I came here at 10 years old, I never had to think about if things were different, if this place was different, more like the churches that so many of my friends attended, either willingly or they were made by their parents. I never had to worry about whether or not it was acceptable to be myself. But in retrospect, this was invaluable. This accepting environment helped shape me, helped me be unafraid to be me, and I am eternally grateful for that. What I learned at All Souls, well, I suppose I should say the most important thing I learned from All Souls, is that there is not just one way to be a good person. During my short time in Christian education programs, I was taught the only way to be good was to follow Jesus. I remember my first day at All Souls, we were doing some type of science project, and I asked if we were going to talk about the Bible, because that's how all my other Sunday school classes had gone. And the teacher said no, and that marked the beginning of my transition, because these people surrounding me were not bad, though they didn't all believe in God. So what makes someone good? The longer I've been here, the more I've come to realize it's not just one thing. Everyone here is good in their own way, each different from the last. So with or without a God, I can be good too. I learned a lot during my time in the Coming of Age program and going to Boston. I learned a lot about the Unitarian Universalist religion. I learned in depth about our principles and beliefs. But more than that, the fact that we spent so much of our time learning about other religions, traditions, cultures, that spoke volumes about Unitarian Universalist tolerance and acceptance. I also formed strong friendships. I'm sure we thought we were close before, but after sharing a room for a week with Rachel, Eleanor, and Riley, and being one room over from Martin, Ethan, Becker, Derek, and Joy, all our friendships were far more intimate. Not to mention a friendship I formed with someone who was not on the Boston trip, but who has been in the teen class with me for the past few years, Tori. I suppose I should mention the Unitarian Universalist principle that I find most meaningful to me. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Now, I've always had an inquisitive mind, so finding truth is very important to me. But to me, it means far more than that. Free means that all people must be equal, as that's the only way for equal opportunity and learning and discovery. Responsible means that when you make a mess, you clean it up. You don't leave oil in the ocean or pollution in the air. To search, you don't stop searching. You recognize that you're never done searching and that there's always something new out there. As for truth and meaning, the jury's still out on what that means to me. My future. I am going to college. I'm going to be going to Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri this fall. It is an all-women's private school, and for a while I didn't think I could go to private school. I didn't think I could afford private school as I have limited financial resources and it's very expensive, but with a $31,000 a year scholarship, I think I'll just make it. I will be getting a Bachelor of Science in Biology, with a possible minor in chemistry. And then I intend to go to graduate school for either microbiology or molecular genetics, and I hope to one day be Dr. Stevens. Eventually, I would like to be a scientific researcher and a possible biology teacher. So I suppose I should end by thanking some people. My mom and my sister, Zarin Reynolds, my mentor, all my teachers, everyone who's helped my family throughout the years, and of course, Judith. Thank you.
Don't go away. Just stay here for a minute. Hang on, you'll have another chance. It's the same everywhere. College students are idealists. They think they can change the world. It was that way at the University of Munich in February of 1943, when 3 students were arrested by Hitler's Gestapo. Hans Scholl was in medical school, preparing to become a doctor, at the same time that he served, like all young men in Germany at the time, in the army. His younger sister, Sophie, studied philosophy and biology at the university. Their good friend, Christel Probst, was married and the father of 3 young children. 4 days after their arrest, after interrogation and a pro forma trial, the 3 of them were all beheaded at München-Stadelheim prison. They were executed for daring to stand up and speak out against the tyranny of the Nazis. Hans and Sophie Scholl and Christel Probst, together with their friends Alexander Schmorl, Willy Graf, and their professor, Kurt Huber, were the authors and distributors of the Leaflets of the White Rose, a series of short essays that were anonymously published and distributed across their campus and at other universities in the summer and fall of 1942. In these leaflets, the 6 members of the Society of the White Rose called upon the conscience of the German people to resist Hitler's National Socialist government, its war effort, and its abuse of Jews and other citizens' rights. They encouraged the fearful and despairing citizens who had been silenced by the surveillance, threats, and violence of the Nazi Party organization to believe that resistance was possible, that even the secret spread of ideas could help to end the war and restore the nation to sanity and justice. On old-fashioned mimeograph machines, they ran off copies of these pamphlets in the middle of the night, quietly scattered them in hallways and classrooms, sent them anonymously through the mail, and even traveled on trains to other cities with suitcases full of them to give to friends and to place at other college campuses. Sophie and Hans and their friends knew that what they were doing was extremely dangerous. They tried to protect their families and their other friends from being implicated by never discussing this work or their feelings about Hitler's administration with anyone outside the Society of the White Rose. They were motivated by the inspiring philosophies of Germany's greatest scholars and writers, people like Schiller, Fichte, and Goethe, as well as historical figures like Lao Tzu, Thomas Aquinas, and the Bible. From these various sources, they came to conclusions that resonate remarkably with the convictions of modern humanism. In her memorial, after her sister and brother were executed, their sister Inga wrote this: "Theirs was the voice of the independent man as the traditions of humanism, the Enlightenment, and early socialism had envisioned him, the autonomous, non-manipulable core of a free society. It was the voice of the man who was not ready to delegate his right of opinion to organizations which did not wholly represent his own views. This uprising of the single man is a specific characteristic of these students, as is the fact that they sought ways of combating a dictatorship even when the prospects of success were slight." Inga continues, "Above all, there were the human and humanitarian values that had to be preserved. It was a matter of defending a free society, an order which centuries preceding our era had been won with great effort and sacrifice. It was a matter of putting up a defense against the imminent threat of a new barbarism, against the legalization of genocide, and against the piratical elitist doctrine of the race and the state. The defense of common humanity everywhere had to be raised above the interest of the nation. The common interest of all nations and races was greater and immeasurably more important than the differences among people, and it had, therefore, to be rescued. In a war against the individual, against people different from ourselves, and against dissident minorities, the resistors had to show their solidarity with these isolated individuals. The oppression by the national state, speaking as it did in its egocentric way in the name of the whole nation, thus caused a new sense of community to grow on a higher level. Again today, these words stand as a challenge to any government that seeks to make unjust war, to trample on the rights of minorities, to silence dissent, and to hold itself above moral accountability. Today, this young woman of our community declares herself, as we have taught her to be, the author of her own thoughtful convictions, nurtured by the heritage of our love and the human endeavor, but fundamentally free. My dear, there is so little we can promise you about the future. Not even that the day may not come again when the price of freedom and integrity would again be life itself. Today, I invite you to become an heir of the Society of the White Rose, to embrace with clarity and with pride what you authentically believe, to follow fearlessly wherever reason and conscience lead you in the years to come, and to act with courage on your values as they call you to serve humanity and the highest good. This is the story of Sophie Scholl and the Society of the White Rose. May the spirit that was in her and those who worked and died with her be in you also, that the white rose of human dignity, integrity, and freedom shall bloom in your life to be a sign and a blessing to all the world.
Carissa is crossing the bridge from adolescence into adulthood. As a part of this bridging ceremony, I want to share this reading by Reverend Barbara L. Hebner with you. It's entitled, A Hope Realized. Hope is that slender thread that we shoot across the abyss of despair so that we may later haul across the ropes of reality. We're not meant to swing across the chasm on glimmering gossamer strands of hope. They're there to guide us as we do the hard work of building the bridges upon which we may walk upon the generations to come. Building bridges is grubby and unglamorous, expensive and time-consuming, but that's what gets us across. And for that, we need companionship and community. Look around you. Every good thing you see is a hope realized. Carissa, you are hope realized in our lives. We commit today to support you in fulfilling your hopes for the future. For your gifts of fellowship and joy, we thank you. For the memories that we'll always cherish, we give you our thanks. As you move into making your own choices about your life decisions, live your life with awareness and intention, which you already do. May you remember the gift of listening and the stillness of the heart. May you remember the gift of laughter and the joy of the dance. May you grow in mind and spirit and body, forever our friend. This is a time of transition and not farewell. As you move into a new phase of life, the experiences you've had and the lessons you learned here at All Souls will remain with you. We hope for you a fulfilling life that expands the common good in the world. We're giving you a travel mug with the symbol of a chalice to remind you that no matter how far you travel, there's always a place for you here at All Souls. And we are giving you a special chalice to remind you that there's always a light burning for you here at All Souls. Wherever you travel, whatever you decide to do, you're always welcome here at All Souls and in any Unitarian Universalist church. Please join me in the congregational response to Carissa. The response is in your bulletin and on the screen.
And I'm going to ask our arch people to go ahead and get your arches up there.
Ready. Yes.
All
okay.
Right.
Thank you. Great job.
Okay. So together we say, we welcome you into the adult community of All Souls. For your individual talents and your gifts, we welcome you. For the hopes you bring and the concerns you share, we welcome you. We offer you our guidance and friendship as you cross the bridge into adulthood.
And if you take your gift.
And one last time, we will sing this song for Carissa.
And Carissa, you can go walk through the bridge.
celebration, in praise, in blessing, in service.